Welcome to our episode of Defense Briefing. I'm your host Liang Zhen. Today, we're diving into a mix of music, politics, and economic shifts that are shaping our world. First up, as the Eurovision Song Contest becomes a stage for protest as Israel's participation draws thousands of demonstrators in Sweden amidst the ongoing conflict in Gaza. Moving to the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stands firm against a U.S. threat to withhold arms, signaling that the Gaza offensive will continue with or without American support. Lastly, we're looking at how global economic sanctions and alliances are reshaping power dynamics, with countries like Russia finding ways to circumvent Western sanctions and the BRICS alliance challenging Western dominance. Stay tuned for the detailed coverage on these unfolding stories. In the midst of the ongoing conflict in Gaza, the Eurovision Song Contest has become an unexpected focal point for protests and political statements. According to the South China Morning Post, thousands of demonstrators took to the streets of Malmö, Sweden, voicing their opposition to Israel's participation in the iconic music competition. The protests were sparked by the ongoing violence in Gaza, with signs brandished by the protesters reading "Liberate Palestine" and "Colonialism cannot be washed in pink." Despite the heated atmosphere and the significant presence of protesters, Israeli singer Idan Golan took the stage without incident and managed to qualify for the grand finale, set to take place on Saturday. Amidst the chants and the calls for liberation, there were also counter-protests, showing their support for Israel, illustrating the deeply polarized views on the conflict. The backdrop to these protests is a grim one. Yahoo US reports that Israeli troops have killed around 50 gunmen in eastern Rafah, in the southern Gaza Strip as part of their military operations in the area. The Israel Defense Forces (IDF) have stated that approximately 150 Palestinians have been evacuated from eastern Rafah since the beginning of their operation. Moreover, Israeli forces have taken control of parts of the border crossing with Egypt in Rafah, tightening their grip on the region and exacerbating the humanitarian crisis in the area. Amid international concern and calls for restraint, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has taken a defiant stance. The Sydney Morning Herald quotes Netanyahu stating that a U.S. threat to withhold some arms would not deter Israel from continuing its offensive in Gaza. This statement comes in the face of President Joe Biden's urging for Israel to reconsider its planned invasion of the city of Rafah, highlighting fears of worsening the humanitarian situation in the Palestinian enclave. Netanyahu's bold declaration that Israel would fight with much more than fingernails if necessary underscores the determination of the Israeli government to press on with its military operations. Despite international criticism and the potential for further isolating its closest ally, the U.S., the situation in Gaza and Israel's military actions have not only sparked protests around the Eurovision Song Contest but have also drawn global attention to the escalating conflict and the dire humanitarian situation facing the Palestinian people. As the world watches the unfolding events, the intertwining of cultural events like Eurovision with political protests serves as a stark reminder of the far-reaching impact of the conflict in Gaza, transcending borders and permeating into various aspects of global discourse. The determination of both sides, as evidenced by the protests in Sweden and the statements from Israeli leadership, signals a conflict deeply entrenched and far from resolution, casting a long shadow over international relations and the quest for peace in the region. In a world where geopolitical tensions and economic challenges are increasingly shaping our daily lives, recent developments have highlighted the complexities and evolving dynamics of international relations and economic policy. The BBC reported on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's defiant stance against the U.S. threat to halt arms shipments if Israel pursued a full-scale invasion of Rafah in Gaza. Netanyahu's bold assertion that Israel can't stand alone underscores the growing tensions and changing alliances that define our current geopolitical landscape. This development comes against a backdrop of escalating violence in Gaza, with over 80 people fleeing Rafah amid constant bombardment and Israeli tanks massing near populated areas. Simultaneously, the Globa and Mail shed light on the profound economic transformations underway, as articulated by Jeff Rubin, former chief economist at CIBC World Markets. Rubin's analysis suggests that the global economy, as we know it, is undergoing a seismic shift, driven in part by the widespread use of economic sanctions and the unintended consequences they entail. the rise of the BRICS economical alliance and the increasing economic independence of countries like Russia, which has pivoted towards Asian markets, challenge the traditional dominance of Western economic powers. Rubin points out the backfiring effect of sanctions on Western economies themselves, highlighting the resurgence of inflation and the push towards economic nationalism as countries prioritize security of supply over comparative advantage. This shift towards inward-looking economic policies signifies a departure from the global trading order that has defined the post-Cold War era, with profound implications for international trade and the cost of living in the West. Nikkei brings another dimension to the discussion with its coverage of a book released by a group affiliated with former President Donald Trump, which advocates for the U.S. to prioritize China as its top foreign policy concern over the war in Ukraine. The book, An America First Approach to U. National Security, calls for a decoupling from China in sensitive sectors and a reevaluation of the U.S.'s strategic priorities. The authors, including former Trump advisors, argue that China represents the greatest national security threat to the U.S. and that a concerted effort is needed to deter this threat through political, economic, and military means. The book's emphasis on defending Taiwan and demanding more from U.S. allies in terms of strategic contributions reflects a broader recalibration of U.S. foreign policy priorities in the face of evolving global challenges. These developments, spanning from the Middle East to the corridors of economic and foreign policy strategy, underscore the complex interplay between geopolitical tensions, economic policies, and national security priorities. As countries navigate these turbulent waters, the decisions made today will undoubtedly shape the global landscape for years to come. Whether it's Israel's stance on its security, the shifting sands of the global economy, or the U.S.'s focus on China as a central security concern, these stories highlight the multifaceted challenges and opportunities that lie ahead in our increasingly interconnected yet divided world. In a world where headlines often blur into a continuous stream of information, certain stories stand out, painting a vivid picture of the global landscape and the complex challenges facing societies today. From the bustling ports of Baltimore to the tense geopolitical chessboard involving the U.S., Israel, and Taiwan, these narratives shed light on the multifaceted nature of international relations, security concerns, and the quest for peace and stability. Starting with a significant development in the United States, U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg announced a major milestone for the Port of Baltimore. According to the BBC, Buttigieg underscored the critical importance of the channel, emphasizing that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers had successfully met their goals to clear the way and ensure the port's reopening by the end of May. This achievement not only highlights the efficiency and dedication of the Army Corps of Engineers, but also underscores the vital role of infrastructure in supporting commerce and economic growth. Across the nation, in the heart of New York City, a chilling event unfolded on New Year's Eve, 2022, as Trevor Bickford carried out a machete attack near Times Square, targeting 3 police officers. The Associated Press reported that Bickford was sentenced to 27 years in prison after admitting to the attack. The officers, who bravely faced the assailant, shared their harrowing experiences during the sentencing, with one revealing the profound impact on his mental health, likely forcing him into early retirement. The judge's decision to show leniency, citing Bickford's age and mental health issues, coupled with the mandate for lifelong monitoring post-release, reflects the complex interplay between justice, rehabilitation, and societal safety. On the international stage, the Biden administration's stance on Israel has drawn attention, as reported by Foreign Policy, amid growing concerns over the humanitarian impact of Israel's war against Hamas. The U.S. has paused some military aid to Israel. This decision marks a potentially significant shift in U.S.-Israel relations and reflects the Biden administration's delicate balancing act between supporting an ally and addressing humanitarian concerns. The reaction from Israel has been one of frustration, with tensions simmering over the implications of this move for the broader geopolitical dynamics in the region. Meanwhile, Taiwan's strategic defense initiatives have taken a novel turn, with the island seeking U.S.-made suicide drones to deter potential aggression from China. These drones, or their ability to hover for hours before striking, represent a new frontier in modern warfare. Taiwan's interest in acquiring such capabilities, including specific models like the AeroVironment's Switchblade 300 and potentially larger variants, signifies the evolving nature of military technology and the increasing importance of unmanned systems in contemporary conflicts. Lastly, the UK Ministry of Defence experienced a significant data breach, potentially compromising the personal information of nearly 300, while the government has yet to pinpoint the source of the hack. Media reports have suggested possible links to China, highlighting the ongoing challenges of cybersecurity in an era where digital warfare and espionage pose significant threats to national security. Together, these stories aggressing from infrastructure developments in Baltimore and a violent attack in New York to strategic military considerations in Taiwan and a major data breach in the UK offer a glimpse into the diverse challenges and developments shaping our world. They remind us of the importance of vigilance, resilience, and the continuous pursuit of stability and peace in an increasingly complex and interconnected global landscape. Thank you for tuning in, and the content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopsis, thoughtfully curated by the 60O team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks and government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 60O Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 60O team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 60O Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website. 60O Brief, regardless of your location. You can conveniently receive 60O Brief via email,